Welcome and thank you for joining us for the second half hour, The Factor Uncensored. Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg says he had throwdown weapons and throwdown drugs, all to set up citizens for bogus charges and arrests here in Harris County. Now former HPD officer, you see him here, 61-year-old Gerald Goines has been sentenced to 60 years in prison involving the botched Harding Street raid that left Regina Nicholas and Dennis Tuttle dead. But Ogg says she's not done yet. She says she just assigned 2 new prosecutors today to go after more officers in the deadly raid back in 2019. We talked with her tonight. So you have a conviction and a sentencing with Gerald Goines. Been in the works since 2019. Many people didn't believe that you guys could get this former police officer prosecuted. Your thoughts on the 60-year sentence that he now has?
This is a major statement by our community about how they feel in terms of police corruption. They're not going to tolerate it. It led to the deaths of 2 innocent people and their family dog. Other people were wrongfully convicted by Gerald Goines on his testimony alone and served time in prison. One man served over 8 years, never pleading guilty, never admitting that he did it, and I was able to exonerate him. This is what our system is about. You cannot cut corners. You cannot violate people's individual rights for any reason. And while we may never know the exact motive that Gerald Goines has, we know that he was allowed to investigate and enforce drug laws almost with no supervision for decades. That's wrong. We need some policy changes at HPD to correct that and clean up that narcotics division.
When you think about all that he did, he had tentacles, meaning affecting dozens, possibly hundreds of lives.
That's right.
And we will really never know just how many people that, and you guys ended up throwing some cases out as a result of his tainted testimony and his lack of a reputation. Now,
we dismissed dozens of live cases at the time Harding Street happened once Gerald Goines was shown to be a liar on an affidavit for a warrant to kick somebody's door in with no notice to the homeowner. You use that in very severe cases. You know, these were innocent people, and they were not poor people, they were not already convicted drug dealers, and they didn't live in the 3rd Ward, which is where Goines was known for doing his drug busts, along with his entire squad. So they were out of their element, and these people thought it was a home invasion. And the homeowner, Dennis Tuttle, shot back, and of course the police shot hundreds of times into that home and inside the home, and it cost many officers their careers. It cost one of them, he's a paraplegic, and it cost these 2 people their lives. And he's a quadriplegic. And so there's tragedy everywhere Gerald Goines touched. He had a negative effect on people. This is a historic verdict because this time Houstonians said, no, you don't get a pass just because you're one of HPD's finest. This guy never deserved to be called a policeman.
why do we think it took so long to figure out who Gerald Goines really was? Did we not have people in the community coming forward saying, look, this is a dirty cop, a corrupt cop?
My leadership, many of whom are very experienced lawyers and have practiced criminal defense, say that Gerald Goines was a known bad element, but HPD chose not to move him out of narcotics, not to investigate his cases. His confidential informants were people he was involved with intimately, many of whom said, I've never been in this house or that house, didn't buy dope. He carried throwdown weapons in the back of his city vehicle, along with drugs that presumably were there to be planted on people like Dennis Tuttle and Regina Nicholas. And so I think it was a failure system-wide at HPD, starting at the top in terms of how narcotics are enforced. It's a quantity-based process. That's wrong. We don't see a reduction in crime by arresting more drug users. And our focus should be on dealers, on traffickers, and moving up that financial chain if we really want to stop and enforce drugs and their prohibition. But these no-knock warrants, I know they've ended now with HPD. They went on far too long, and they were used liberally. That's wrong. We need more checks and balances in HPD, and I'm looking to this new chief and our mayor to bring us real reform of narcotics enforcement.
And that is Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg. Don't go anywhere. We have more reaction to the verdict next. Welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. The fate of former Houston police officer Gerald Goines is now sealed. As we've reported today, he has been sentenced to 60 years in prison for his role in a 2019 drug raid that escalated to the death of Regina Nicholas and Dennis Tuttle. Joining us to talk about it here on The Factor tonight, Andy Kahan from Houston Crime Stoppers and Waller County Constable Herschel Smith. So Herschel, let's begin with you. When you see a law enforcement officer become the public's worst nightmare, the one who will set them up, the one who will lie on them, the one who will get them charged, maybe for just some overtime, it's just a nightmare.
Something been going on for years. Been going on for years in the police department. Many people don't want to talk about it, but there's still guys just like this guy in Waller County, you know, planting drugs on people, doing things like that. I mean, those kind of things, we as law enforcement, especially those at the top, we got to shut that down. If we don't shut that down, they're going to continually move forward. It's the old, good old boy system.
Now, when we talk about Gerald Goines here, there have been cries from Third Ward for years saying this is a dirty cop. He is a horrible human being. He's a horrible person. And nothing was ever done until 2 people died. And people online are saying 2 white people died.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that people have to die behind that. They already been knowing that's what's going on. They've been covering it up and covering it up. That's what happens. They cover stuff up. And when you continue to cover up, eventually, you know, when you plant the wrong thing, gonna come up wrong. You know, just that simple. I mean, the guy, he was their choice. He was their top guy for drugs, busing, and all of the stuff. And that's the way the game work. It's work. And they know, I mean, it's amazing the things that happen and the people who takes the fall. You know, those people take a fall all the time, you know, but that's because they want to continually keep it quiet.
And the district attorney talked about a man who spent 8 years in prison as a result of Gerald Goines lying. And they had to release him, and she was happy to release him to give him his freedom. Your thoughts on this, Andy, seeing this like this? Usually you're defending victims from bad judges and poor, but your thoughts on a situation like this?
Well, the reverberations of Gerald Goines are going to be felt for decades because, like you just said, God knows how many other people are still locked up. People who have criminal records as a result of a rogue cop. But I think the jury came back loudly and clearly, and the bottom line is they convicted him of not 1 but 2 murders. So he's a convicted murderer, bottom line. So 60 years. The interesting thing is, what's the Texas Department of Criminal Justice now going to do? Because they're going to have to keep him in protective custody.
You can't put him in general population.
No, there are too many people out there that want a piece of him right now. So 60 years means 30. Realistically, he's going to be 90 some odd years old when he's eligible for parole. So he gave himself a death sentence, but there is no one to blame except for Gerald Goines on this. And like the constable said, how many other people basically allowed him to do are complicit that are also responsible for allowing him to continue to basically have a reign of terror on the city of Houston for decades.
And many people would say this would be a message loud and clear to other rogue officers out there, but it won't be. It won't be.
No, because when you feel comfortable, you've been at a job and you feel comfortable about it, you're going to continually do what you've been doing. You may try to have a little conscience about it, but it's not nothing big going to really happen. You know what I'm saying? You think about Taylor. when the no-knock one with her.
Breonna Taylor, yeah.
Yeah, just think about that. Nothing happened. These guys, they get off, you know? And most of the time, I hate to say it, but most of the time when black people do something like that in law enforcement, they gonna get the book. You know, the white guys do it all the time. They get their job. They can go to another agency, cover it up. Black people don't get that. They don't get that. They don't get that second time, that third time to be a cop. You know, it's cut off. And that's a problem in law enforcement. That's a huge problem.
And Andy, when you take a look at law enforcement, where do you see the issues lie, especially in this Gerald Goines case? And one of the things that District Attorney Kim Ogg said, this is not the end. Even though some officers were no bill, they're going at them again. And beginning tomorrow, and she just hired 2 new prosecutors today.
Well, it's been a long journey. This took over 5 years.
Yes,
to
2019.
finally get a culmination of that. So, you know, whether or not other officers are going to kind of bear the fruits of what happened to Gerald Goines remains to be seen. But like the constable said, he ain't the only one.
All right, we want to thank you guys for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored.